Welcome to episode 23 of Around the Verse. I am Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Ben Lesnick.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it's fantastic. Ali made dinner for me and my brother, a couple of his friends. No backers showed up, but a great time. And how was London?
London was awesome. I was there for a very quick trip, got a lot of work done, and I had a very enjoyable Thanksgiving.
Good. We are very glad to have you back.
Yeah, Carrick sale.
Carrick sale. We released the Carrick on Friday, which has just been lightning. Everybody really loves this ship. It really gets to that like Star Trek Captain the Enterprise fantasy feeling. I think it's going to be a big part of Star Citizen.
Are you a cartographer?
I am not a cartographer yet.
I'm not either.
I did like the post I saw where someone had discovered Chris's dead body in the map somewhere.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I guess Chris failed due to morale at some point when he was playing it, so there was a C. Roberts 68 they passed by.
Hilarious. And we hit $65 million.
It's incredible. It's all thanks to our great big anniversary sale, making a lot of the old ships available again, and of course the Javelin destroyers. We talk about these numbers and they're just unbelievable at this point. I remember when we were trying to get 2 million to just prove that this could happen, and we're so far from that now.
Some of the team is in the UK talking Squadron 42.
That's right. The big guys, people like Chris, Alex Mayberry, Mark Skeleton are all over there talking what they're going to be doing on Squadron 42 this next year, and also prepping for a big mocap shoot that's going to be happening in the UK next week.
While others of us in the LA office and around are working on Arena Commander 1.0.
That is right. Arena Commander 1.0 is coming together. We are hoping to have it out soon, and we'll have updates as they are available.
And we put out the Javelin. That went very fast.
Yes, they were gone in, I think, under 15 seconds. If you didn't get one, we hope to offer more in the future. It's a game balance issue, but the verse keeps expanding. Even if you didn't get one, check out the post on the comm link about them. There's all sorts of cool information, what the UK has been up to with this ship. It's actually already in the engine, being tested now. It's a really cool design. We hope you enjoy the information.
And what I'm very pleased to announce is that we have thousands of new backers. So welcome to all you new backers.
Is awesome. Yeah, welcome. We know a lot of you picked up the $20 Aurora we offered last week. Thought that went really well. It's great to have new people joining the ranks of Star Citizen's backers.
And don't worry if you're not very good at flying, because I'm not either.
Which we'll find out at the live stream next.
We will find out at the live stream on December 19. But now it is time for news from around the verse.
As you guys know, last week was a short one for Star Citizen's teams, with most of the studios closing for Thanksgiving. But we still got some work done. Let's do it module by module.
Starting with Arena Commander, Spectator mode has received a few improvements.
The Spectator mode is going to allow people to drop in and watch matches rather than take part in them. It'll be good for broadcasting competitive matches. Also cool for just recording some nice footage of Star Citizen, because this is a beautiful game.
And the Avenger and Mustang have entered QA.
The Avenger and Mustang are getting close to flight ready, which we're hoping to have with 1.0. I think they still have some damage states work to do on the Avenger, but QA are flying them around right now, getting the kinks worked out.
And the cinematic chase and gun camera has received improvements.
That one, I guess, is self-explanatory. A lot of work on the different cameras, and that is the one that we're focusing on last week.
Squadron 42, landing is getting a bit more polish.
I actually saw a video of landing examples from the UK yesterday. It is looking good, both the manual and the automatic landings.
Conversation system proof of concept is ongoing.
That's for the interactive conversations in Squadron 42, kind of getting away from the traditional like pick two options thing. Chris has some interesting ideas for that I know he's talked about before, and now we are seeing them in action.
And there's a focus on finishing Avenger damage states.
Yes, we are getting very close to being done with the Avenger. I know everybody wants to see the Avenger. They've been bothering you personally, I believe.
They have been bothering me personally.
But the Avenger is coming soon. They're working on the damage states, which are, when a ship takes damage, it has to have 100 different preset blast points and parts broken off. But they're making some progress on that. I think I saw the 50% damaged Avenger today, and Chris said it needed to look more damaged. So keep an eye on that.
There you go. Speaking of that, if you hear clackety-clack in the background, that's either Chelsea and Alexis typing madly because we're very busy on customer service, or it is because it is raining in Los Angeles, amazingly.
Once in a lifetime. I think this is the second time I've seen rain since I moved here.
I know. It's actually raining quite hard out there. So, Persistent Universe. The ArcCorp bartender model has been completed.
You guys saw some examples of bartender costumes last week, and now we've got a bartender to wear them.
Nurse NPC character has started work.
And a nurse is a big deal because it's not just going to be, hey, I happen to meet a nurse in the Persistent Universe. It's going to come into play with the whole health system we talked about in last week's big design comm link.
The Odessa and Mariana landing zones are being designed.
You've heard about the first 5 systems that we're prototyping the Persistent Universe with. Well, we are also expanding beyond those.
Ships, Starfarer exterior and interior have continued in the concept phase.
I know we have some backers who were curious about where the Starfarer is. We did not do it as one of the 5 ship spotlights last week. The answer is that the Starfarer is fairly far along. It is used in the first chapter of Squadron 42. So we've actually have it in the engine. They're gray boxing it, interior and exterior. And you'll be seeing more of it very soon.
5 Vandal ships have begun gray boxing.
That's right. There's a destroyer, a corvette, a light fighter. There's a boarding ship. They look very cool. We're going to keep some of that under wraps for Squadron 42, but there may be a tease or 2 out there.
And our prototype damage system is almost ready for production.
We just talked about the kind of hand-done damage states for the Avenger. They're working on a procedural system in the UK as well, which will allow us to create damage states for ships much more quickly. It's absolutely necessary for the large capital ships because it's very, very hard to have a kilometer-long spaceship and individually come up with every possible damage point. So we're prototyping that on capital ships and hoping to move it to fighters in the long run.
First-person shooter, R&D on the push-pull system for zero-G.
So normally in zero-G combat, ideally you'll have a jetpack or some kind of booster. But when you do not have those, the system still needs to simulate kind of traditional NASA-style zero-G where you have handhelds and push off and fly around without gravity.
Rework of the cover systems underway.
They are changing the cover system a little bit from what you saw at PAX Australia. It's going to be automatic now when you push against a cover rather than something you select. I have not tried it yet, but they say that it improves the game quite a bit.
Prone and crawl system put into place.
That's the crawling on your belly. It's necessary for walking through, kind of the traditional FPS tropes, going through the vents and such. Those are all in our engine now.
That's it. So let's go over to Mark for this week's Bug Smashers.
Hey everyone, welcome to a special holiday edition Hey everyone, welcome to a special holiday edition of Bug Smashers Lounge. We got Taylor Swift chilling in the VIP, and let me tell you fellas, she is ready to date again. Bug Smashers! Hey everyone, we are here in a fancy swarm match. While working on the signature system, we had to do some improvements and changes to the thruster pipe outputs. And in that we have different states. So if you're idling, if your thrusters are active, that means if they're getting moved, or if you're in boost state, or offline. Depending on what you're doing, the thrusters will switch between these states, and that will change what the pipes demand. So if you're in active state, you're going to request so much heat. If you're in boost, you're going to request a bunch more heat. Well, that's Taylor Swift. I was expecting someone else. So testing it out here in the swarm map, you can kind of see it, but in the very bottom green, you'll see something that says state default. So this thruster is in the default state. So when I boost, it will switch to state boost. And when I let go of the boost, it's supposed to go back to the default state, or the idle state. Now, in our heat, on the very bottom, it's actually going to the idle state, but for fuel, it's staying stuck at boost. And that is because in our heat, we have offline, boost, and active and idle state. Our fuel only has default and boost. So when the thruster wants to go back to idle, it's trying to go to default, but default doesn't, or it's not even going back to default, I should say. So it just gets stuck at boost because idle doesn't exist. What we want is, if it doesn't have a state that it normally doesn't have, it should go back to default. And it's clearly not happening right here. It's staying stuck at boost. So let's fix that. All right, so let's go to where it changes the state. Butchered the line. What was it again? So whenever you want to change the state, well, actually we'll thruster. I can show you where it's set in the state. So here we are updating our pipe state. If we're not used, we're offline. If we have our afterburners, we boost. If we're thrusting, we go in active. Otherwise, it's idle. And if it doesn't have any of these, it should try to go to default if it has default. So let's look at the change state. And all it is doing is going through each of the states to determine if it has it, otherwise it does nothing. What we do want is to have, let's introduce the current default state. And what we'll want to do is, if we reach this section of the code and we have a default state, then we want to switch over to this state. So now that we have that, we want to set this default state. So we'll go into reset to find this state. We want default. And we don't want to return, we just want to break. So we will tell our code, what did I name this default state? We'll tell our code to default to -1. That's how we know that we don't have a default state. And then if we'll go through each of the states to see if we have it, then it will assign that index. The internet's not a friendly place. And then we also want to make sure we set this in the constructor. All right. So when we first, let's go, there we go. Let's go to reset. So when we first create this pipe, it will set the default state to -1, look for the default state. If it finds it, it remembers what index it is. So whenever we change our state, if we don't have that state that we want to change to, like boost or idle, it will go to the default state if we know what it is. Let's compile. If we actually look at this as it compiles, our heat will emit 20 heat when we're idling, and if we're boosting or active, we will emit 40, and it will transition to 40, while if we're at this boot state, it will take 0.25 seconds to get to it. And if we leave that state, it'll take another 0.25 seconds to get out. So that way you don't snap to and from quickly. And what we'll do is it will actually pump these values into a pool, and it will build that pool up, and it'll try to deplete it at 20 per second. However, it also has a natural decay of 10, which means if you're not hooked up to a cooler, it will cool down 10 per second by its own. But if we are hooked up to a cooler, it will remove 20, so it will go away at 30. So during idle, the pool won't actually fill up, but if you're actually actively using this thruster, it will build up. And we'll actually emit 1 IR signature per cool, or 0.1 cool in the pool. And we'll emit 1 signature based on how much heat we're actually moving into the pool. So you'll bright up if you're actively moving, and if you've been moving for a while, you'll still remain lit until the pool cools down. If you have no more coolers, then it will take longer, but it will eventually go away. All right, we're ready to go, so let's launch the game. Don't worry, we gotta do this at least 10 more times. Chilling in the VIP. So if all well works, whenever we're boosting, we should be taking 20 fuel per second, and any other state we should immediately take no fuel. So let's give that a try. Let's turn on God mode. Not safe for work filter should definitely be on. And then debug these pipes. Now we'll scroll all the way over to the fuel. And we'll boost. And it's correctly going to the boost state. And if we let go, it goes to default. So we're eating up now in boost, and we let go, we go to default. And now it works as intended. So if we don't have a state, it will go back to default if the default is specified. Woo. All right, so today's bug was to deal with the pipe system. We changed how the thrusters emit, signals, or pipe, what are those things called? Pipe, I guess call it pipe values. All right, so as you saw, we changed the pipe emissions for the thrusters. We added new states, and we found a bug that's been in there for a while, but we just never got exposed, where if you try to transition to a state that doesn't exist, it should transition to the default state, but it was not. So when I was boosting with the thrusters, it would be stuck at boost forever, depleting my fuel until I respawned. So I added some code to say, hey, I'm no longer in this state, but the state I want to go to doesn't exist, so we'll go to the default state. So now whenever I boost and I let go, it will go to the default state, not eating up any more fuel. So now I won't be using any more fuel until I boost, and everything will be working as expected. And with that, I'm gonna go head out with Tyler Swift and make a movie.
Nice one, Mark.
Let's see what Will's up to for this week's MVP.
Hey everybody, I'm lead moderator Will here to bring you this week's MVP. This week's MVP goes to Book for his thread describing how he's going to give his nephews a few Auroras for Christmas. In this package, he's going to do more than just give them the ship. They're going to get access cards, a brochure, and a title transfer document. So thank you very much, Book. You're this week's MVP.
Thanks, Will. That is a cool present and a great father.
Aw.
But speaking of adorable stories from the Star Citizen fandom, we have a letter here.
We do. Look at that writing. It's so cute.
This is from one of the Boy Scouts who visited us a few weeks ago. You want to read that?
Mm-hmm. It says, Dear Cloud Imperium, thank you so much for the awesome joystick. It is amazing. Thank you for giving time to show us around. It was amazingly awesome. From Tommy Conlon, Troop 223.
There you go. Amazing and awesome.
I love it. Yeah.
We're just trying to get them hooked young with the free joystick.
Right?
But thank you, Tommy. We really appreciate you writing.
We do. It was great having them here. Now let's get a minute or two out of Chelsea and Alexis to give us a CS update.
Hi, welcome to customer service. My name's Chelsea.
And I'm Alexis.
Over the past week, we've received quite a few tickets in customer service. So if you're still waiting for a response, we'll be getting to you just as quickly as we can, but we have a lot of tickets to wade through first. So please be patient and you will be answered.
We still have pilot models available in the store, and if you ordered one of those, you should be receiving your shipment notification in the very near future. One
of the biggest requests we've received in customer service is to be added to a wait list. Unfortunately, we no longer have a system for that, but you should have another opportunity to get most of these ships again in the future, and if not, you can always get them in-game. I'd also like to announce that we've hired on Patrick in the UK full-time for customer service. He'll be joining Allie working there, and as an added bonus, he speaks German.
And just a reminder that we have the Carrack available to pledge for in the store through Monday, December 8th.
So that wraps up this week's customer service update. We'll see you next time, guys.
Yes, that's it. That's the one.
I like that. It's
yeah.
it makes you guys seem human. Keyword scene.
Thanks, guys. We know you are working very hard, especially this week after the big sale. There's, I think, roughly 2,000 tickets. If you guys have a ticket that is waiting, they will be with it shortly.
Here's James with CIG paralegal Steven Kam, who you guys might know as the forum moderator, Toast.
Thanks, guys. I'm here with Steven Kam, or you may know him as Citizen Toast. Toast, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, James?
I'm pretty good, man. Thanks for coming on. I gotta say, I'm very excited you're here.
Yeah, me too. It's 2 years of moderating and now about 2 months of being a paralegal. It's been quite a ride. It's been lots and lots of fun.
It was really cool. It was. I worked with you, anonymously for 9 months. And then when you came to the door, you're like, "Hi, I'm Steven." And I was like, "Oh, hi. Nice to meet you." You're like, "I'm Toast." And I was like, "Oh, word, you're Toast?"
Right, I have to go by the other name. Still get called Toast mostly around here.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
I think everyone in here calls you Toast.
Yeah. One exception, Chris. Chris calls me Steven. He made a point of asking me my proper name. Chris's class.
You didn't say Toast? Oh, nice. Nice subtle jab. Well, you want to get us some questions?
Sure.
All right. First question comes from Sleepy Walker. How has the transition from being a CIG mod to a CIG employee been? With all the behind-the-scenes knowledge you have, how has this affected your view and expectations of the project?
Okay, well, in terms of the transition, I'd say having been a mod for about 2 years and following the project for about 2 years, really familiar with the development and a lot of the people who work here. Like you said, it's been kind of working with everybody anonymously for a while. So arriving here was actually very comfortable. When you're just following a project, of course, it's just fun all the time. And when you're actually somewhere, it's fun and it's also work. So that's a change, but it's a good one because not everyone gets to work on something that they really, really enjoy. So that's been a big plus. I don't get to play as often because I think if you ask a lot of people here, when you're working on something, you don't play so many other games. You don't even play this one as much sometimes. And I play less than I did when I was a moderator and Arena Commander first came out. But I'm happy to do it because I kind of grew up playing Wing Commander and Privateer. Big part of childhood and college for me. So much fun. And I think it's time that not just veterans and older fans of Chris's games, but kind of the newer generation of gamers, they should have something like this growing up. So I'm happy to be here helping make it.
I like that feeling you have of, because you're an old school Chris fan, like you said, and you're one of the most diehard. You know more about Chris Roberts games than anyone I've met besides Ben.
Besides Ben, right?
Yeah, and maybe even Chris himself. So the fact that you have this drive to bring it to new players is really refreshing and really interesting, and people should appreciate that, because for you to do it shows that you want to share this with everybody. This feeling you had when you were 10.
Yeah, for me it's not about dominating a leaderboard or being famous in a persistent universe or even having the best ship or any particular sort of notoriety. I would probably be most happy just knowing that lots and lots of people get to enjoy this game. I mean, the citizen count at the moment is hovering somewhere in the 600,000s, but I want it to be in the millions. I want it to be for lots and lots of people.
It's beautiful, man. Next question comes from Strike Force. Is being a paralegal as monotonous as it sounds?
It can be, but really that depends way more on where you are and what you're working on. So, it's record keeping. Being a paralegal is, dealing with contracts, record keeping, communications. And at some places, I think it might be considered a boring job. But here I am at CIG watching people make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 across the pond, right? When you're in proximity to something that's just really, really interesting, the paperwork isn't boring at all. For me, the paperwork is helping set people up to provide art assets and video assets, to make commercials, to make game content, to put comm links up on the site. That means I get to, help go over some of these things, help proofread them sometimes, answer questions along with HR and community service. Yeah, I mean, all of these things, they make the job a really interesting one just because of the proximity to all these things that I've been interested in for, I guess, about 2 years now. So yeah, monotony? No, not really. Maybe somewhere else, but not here. It's kind of like, how shall I put it? I'm actually a lawyer. I'm registered with the California Bar, so I've been a practicing attorney at a law firm. No, that job, for example, is not the way they portray it on TV, right? On TV, it's dramatic. In real life, it's probably more stressful than dramatic, especially if you're a trial lawyer. And so I don't watch legal shows, for example, because they get the experience entirely wrong. The only one that I'll watch occasionally is Boston Legal, because it fulfills what for a lot of trial lawyers is probably a nasty little fantasy that they have just after so much stress. Denny Crane occasionally shoots one of his clients when they really deserve it. And if you've been in big law for enough years, that'll probably happen to you someday. And it's not something that you'll casually admit, especially not around a client. But, so there's the job, and there's the environment, and there's the people you're working for, and it makes all the difference.
Cool. Next question comes from Ikara. I believe that many people around this community, and many other communities, don't know exactly what a mod is. For many, it's like being a forum inquisition. Can you please tell us more about your role as a day-to-day, or your former role as a mod?
I still do some volunteer moderation. I'm not paid for it because I'm here as a paralegal, but I keep in touch with the volunteer moderators and still chip in from time to time. I know a lot of people look at the mods as kind of, you know, the boogeymen, the bad guys, the censors, the cops who try to keep everybody in line. There are plenty of accusations made towards moderators as, you know, you do this for the power trip. And certainly I don't see it that way. I think this community is blessed for, you know, having just very good gamer demographics. We're a good community and we have good moderators. The way that I see the job of a moderator, especially in this community, is as a steward, much more a steward than a cop. That means we're here to serve the community by making sure that the forums and chat room are a pleasant place where you can come and enjoy yourself. You know, you're here to talk about the game, to learn about the game, to get in touch with the devs from time to time, and just enjoy the company of your fellow community members. So every once in a while, somebody gets out of line when, you know, we do have forum and chat rules. And I don't tend to get too angry about that because everyone's human. Anybody can have a bad day. It just happens, you know. Any of us can have a bad day, say the wrong thing. Sometimes it results in probation, but I'm generally not mad at anybody when they come back. Hey, you're a human being, you had a bad day. That's all that it is. Every once in a while, you run into somebody who really kind of values the entertainment value to himself of malicious mischief compared to the health of the overall community. And then, you know, there we have a person where just after enough infractions, the rest of us are, you know, okay, we just can't live with that anymore. You know, he's taken more away from the community than he's bringing. But that's a very rare case. I hate to admit that it happens, but it's the law of large numbers. You know, we have about 600,000 people, and you're going to get a good cross-section of humanity, and there will be the outliers, including the really good people, and some people who, for whatever reason, just demonstrate that they have trouble getting along with everybody else. But again, that's the relatively rare case. So the moderators are here to help keep this a pleasant place where you can come and have a good time at the end of your long work day, or whatever other responsibilities you have in life, and talk about and enjoy a game.
Awesome. Next question comes from Mrs. Bunny Butt. Having been in the field as a forum moderator for a very long time, what do you think about the moderator team and how well they deal with the forums and the chat community?
I think we have really good moderators. Actually, when I came here, I had no experience as a moderator, and now it's been about 2 years. So I learned a lot from some of the other moderators who came in at the same time because they had a lot of experience from other communities. And I have to say, I think they're a very professional bunch. You know, they're not, I think I've seen stereotypes of forum moderators around the internet where they're just slobs behind keyboards who can't get real jobs. And again, you know, people who enjoy power tripping behind the internet at other random anonymous people. But the moderators in our community, they're actually really, really professional. They come from lots of different walks of life. They're from all over the world. We actually have more moderators outside the United States than in the United States, which is really handy because gamers tend to be up at odd hours. So having people staffing the moderation board in Australia, in the UK, that's really, really handy because people are up at all hours of the night. You know, they do all kinds of interesting things for work. You know, some are in law enforcement, data security, engineering, marketing, runs the gamut. They're from all over the place and they bring lots and lots of different perspectives. Even amongst ourselves, we have some great conversations where we learn a lot from each other and not just about moderating.
Yeah, that's one thing I think people take for granted too fast is that even a group of moderators, you know, it's not a homogenized unit. It's people with differing opinions and views on things.
Yeah, we actually have differing opinions and views on all of the kind of big or even touchy forum topics, you know, pay to win, PvP, LTI, you know, anything that you could imagine our forumites fighting over. The moderators tend to have differences of opinion over also. We don't all feel the same way about game mechanics. We don't all feel the same way about gaming in general or game design. That actually helps us do a pretty good job of moderation because sometimes people say, well, you're just sweeping everything under the rug if you think the company doesn't like it. You know, you can't say anything about the design or you're just censoring everybody. But the truth is, we don't do that. We look at somebody's point, and even if one moderator doesn't agree with it, there's a very high likelihood that at least one moderator does. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the ways that we actually confer and keep each other in check a lot. It's like, is this a real issue? Is it reasonable? Well, you know, we like to think of ourselves as relatively reasonable people, and if there's a difference of opinion between the moderators, it may very well be legitimate. Someone should be allowed to have their opinion as long as it's civil.
Mm-hmm. Because I've seen, you know, there's critique of everyone here, there's critique of them. You know, there's critique of me, Ben, Sandy, you, everyone, but as long as it's civil, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Like, we won't, like, I see people critiquing me, and it's like, okay, that's a fair critique, or it's not, but regardless, you were respectful in doing so, so keep, like, there's nothing wrong with that. No. So does that Is that where most of the friction comes from?
Yeah, it's really just about being respectful of your fellow community members, and the moderators are fellow community members. They're fellow backers as well. They weren't picked on how much they pledged or whether they agree with design. They're mostly picked on how much they care about the community and whether or not they'd be willing to put in the hours and time and, you know, deal with some of those attacks. Being a moderator means that much of the time, you know, 80 or 90% of the time, if you had to apply a rule, that meant that there's something that someone disagrees with you on. You know, there's a rule, we apply it, and it says, hey, you shouldn't have done that. It's like, well, you know, there's already disagreement.
Mm-hmm.
Being a moderator means that anything you do, but at least 80 or 90% of the time, there's going to be somebody who doesn't agree with the judgment call. You know, can't be a moderator if you can't live with that.
Last question comes from Brad Guy. So how is it like working in the same building and several yards away from the man who created Wing Commander? Do you still get giddy inside every time you see Chris Robert walk by or every time he chats with you?
Yes. How could it be otherwise?
You and Ben, both of you.
Right. We're horrible that way, aren't we? Well, what's interesting is that Chris is actually really, really dedicated and busy in terms of building the game, working on everything. So I think in the 2 months that I've been here so far, I've maybe gotten to talk to Chris about 5 minutes. You know, I think 2.5 of those minutes were on how to use the really fancy teapot. Yeah. So I tend, you know, to try not to take up too much of his time when it's not business. But it's also the sort of thing where I just, you know, if you asked me growing up if I was going to be doing that, I wouldn't have imagined it. You know, it would be like getting to work with your, you know, favorite movie director or, you know, with your favorite professor or something like that. You know, it might happen, but probably not. And you don't imagine it happening, right? Mm-hmm. So for a couple of days in the beginning, especially, it was a bit to get used to the idea. I was still walking around. I think, remember my first or second day here, I was walking around with some of the subscriber tours that were going around because I had not yet had my office tour. So I said, okay, might as well get my subscriber tour in while I'm in there.
I remember that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, right. Just like everybody else.
But you were like falling behind him like a couple feet behind, like I'm not doing this, like trying to sneak into the tour.
Yeah, but I think probably the most fun moment I've had so far talking to Chris. Mm-hmm. I was kind of watching over Chris and Zane's shoulder while they were working on some of the ESP and targeting modifications that they're doing for 0.9. And I hadn't actually had a chance to look at any of that yet, so it was all new to me, and I was, you know, watching, obviously fascinated because I'd been playing 0.8 before, and, you know, 0.8 was what it was, you know, it's still work in progress, a lot of things not quite built out yet, so there was a big jump to when they went to lag pips and ESP on the stick and controls. And so while they were talking about it, I was just, you know, standing there as a spectator, just enjoying watching them do this for a couple of minutes. And then Chris just pulls me over and sits me down in front of a chair and says, all right, you know, let's see how he handles this. So I'm in front of a control scheme that I'm not used to because I've actually never used a HOTAS. I'm mostly, you know, keyboard and regular joystick. And so I don't know where all the buttons are, and the yaw and roll are reversed, right? So it's not at all what I'm used to. And I haven't been actually looking at it for like the past 2 or 3 weeks or however long it had been at the time. So it was their chance to get somebody who said, okay, you know, he has not yet used to any of these changes. These are all new to him. Let's see how it works out. Unless you're in QA at a company, you don't normally expect that. But you know, as a fan or even as somebody working in the legal department, being asked to play an early build, just to get your feedback and just to be observed playing it, that's a treat.
Yeah, that's something about this company. Doesn't everyone eventually is going to be pulled in to try something?
Yeah, you know, I certainly wouldn't object if that happened just a little bit more. Because here's another funny thing, right? Like, you've got all of these developers here. They've all got pretty decent machines because they need them in order to build the game. Yeah. You know, you're running the dev kit, you're playing the builds, you're testing things. I got a laptop because that's the nature of the thing that, it's the nature of the tool that I need to do my work. It's mostly about spreadsheets and email and communications and being able to pick it up and travel. It's a nice laptop. It certainly, however, is not up to the challenge of running Arena Commander. So when I'm here, I don't play. Right.
We'll get Dennis to get you set up with something.
Sure. Or after hours if somebody's willing to lend me a machine.
You can always use my machine. Well, actually, this is the last question. And it's a question actually for me. Where did you get the nickname Toast?
For me, that kind of represents how badly I generally do at PvP. So it's like, I'm toast. Just to give you an idea, I was actually doing okay in Arena Commander in V0.8 because 0.8 was an early build with all kinds of assists built in. And when 0.9 dropped, I went into one battle royale and got shot down, I think 14 times to 1. I actually got a PM from one of the people who was playing against me afterwards saying, "I'm sorry, that must have sucked. That sounds like a horrible experience. I hope it wasn't, I wasn't as horrible as it looked." So yeah, I definitely have been living up to, I guess, my handle or my call sign there. But it's not what everybody thinks of. I think for 2 years now, I've been getting just a constant stream of toast jokes in chat and in the forums, which I actually don't mind. I mean, it's certainly not what I intended when I picked the handle, but if it's fun for everybody else, I mean, 2 years now and the toast jokes aren't old to everybody else, why not have fun with it?
That's awesome. Let me say before we head out, I am so happy to have you here. To have someone as so enthusiastic about the project as you are, it really makes me happy to see how excited you get whenever we're talking about something. You'll come out of your office just kind of looking around to see.
I know, right? Even if it's customer support tickets, it's like, what happened here? Ooh, what happened there? What's he asking for?
Yeah. It's great having you here, man.
Yeah, it's really good to be here.
Awesome. All right, back to you guys.
Thanks, guys. As a reminder, we have a big live stream coming up. You want to tell them a little bit about that?
Do I? I'm not sure that I do. Do we? Have we locked down the schedule? Well, it's definitely on December 19th, 10 a.m. PST to 2 p.m., so a 4-hour live stream. We're starting a little earlier so that we can get the UK team on. And then we're going to go around to most of our offices, if not all, if we can. We have quite a few little surprises, possibly a commercial. Maybe a little sale. Maybe. We don't want to, no, we just had a sale, but just a small little something. Anything else I missed?
No, that's pretty much it. There's going to be a lot to see. Should be a good time.
That wasn't awkward and strange. No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Speaking of awkward and strange,
yes.
We'd like to announce the winner of the Herald UI contest, which we held 2 weeks back. We asked folks to design what they imagine the user interface of the Herald information runner could look like. We had a couple of really cool entries, but the best of the bunch goes to Bob the Hobo. Bob will be getting the Herald print we did for an interview a couple weeks ago, signed by the artist.
Congratulations, Bob the Hobo. Fly the Hornet free this week.
We are doing another QA test where we're unlocking ships for backers to fly. This week it is the Hornet, a dedicated dogfighter. Have some fun out there and let us know how it's flying.
That's a fun one for our new backers.
It is, yeah, it's a powerful little ship.
Speaking of fun and cool ships, Art Sneak Peek.
Check it out.
That is it for today's show. Thank you everybody for watching and to all the subscribers for making this possible. We will see you around the verse.
I think that was the first time we did it together. Wow, high five. Not awkward.